Welcome back to another episode. This is the Find Me in Seattle podcast. How the heck are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. It is raining today, which is like a blessing for me. I love to wake up and see the rain. It makes me happy. It's one of the reasons why I like living here in Seattle, and it's been real hot, so it's a nice change, and I'm sure we could use it given some of the fires that are going on around town. But today, here in the show, some things that I wanted to share with you this week is I ate at a restaurant for the first time since February, and it was quite a trip. Very interesting experience. We're going to get to that later here in the show. Stay tuned. I also ate a very crazy, one of the most ridiculous cheeseburgers of my life here this week, so I got to talk about that. But before we talk about those things, we are going to do a little update or review on what happened this week in Seattle. So here were some of the big news points that were interesting to me. So the King County Arts COVID Relief Fund gave out nearly $2 million in grants for independent arts businesses, science organizations, and nonprofits. So some of those organizations that received part of that $2 million grant were Numos, Barbosa, Tractor Tavern, Triple Door, El Corazon, Jazz Nightclubs Northwest, The Royal Room, some other science-based organizations were the Museum of Flight, the Seattle Aquarium Society, the Woodland Park Zoological Society, and then some theaters, including the Seattle Rep Theater, Kirkland Arts Center, Seattle Children's Theater, and Fifth Avenue Theater. So these businesses, pretty much all of them, aren't going to have any business for at least the rest of the year, if not longer than that. So I'm sure this fund that they got will keep them afloat for a little while. But you think these plays aren't going to have any shows. None of these theaters are going to have shows anytime soon. I can't imagine there's going to be concerts at any of these venues. Most of these venues are all very tiny. Can't imagine those are going to happen anytime soon. And so I'm glad that this relief fund got to them, but I know it's real hard, and hopefully it'll give them a little bit more time, keep their employees paid, or be able to pay their bills and stay afloat. I mean, pretty much every small music venue in the city seemed like they were on this list, so I hope that helps out with everyone else. Related to more COVID relief, the Chinatown International District Small Business Relief Fund has now raised over $750,000, which is great given how terrible the situation is. I've been thinking about, back on episode 14 of my show, this was on February 21st, I pretty much did an entire episode about the International District. And let's remember, this was February 21st. Our shutdown, I think, was on like March 17th here in Seattle. And the COVID-19 is just decimating that area and that region, and it was doing it before a majority of our country, even our city, was taking it seriously, because back then there was a bunch of what they're blaming xenophobia to going and eating at these restaurants. And at that time, there's politicians saying in multiple cities going around and saying, hey, go visit these places in their respective international districts. And it's sad to see it's happening all over. But that fund, which I think was initially started by Vulcan, was only like a $50,000 grant that got started. Now to see it up for $750,000, that is great to see, just to see how much donations were brought in. Another one, I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but Seattle's oldest sushi restaurant, Maneki, also has a GoFundMe campaign, because I know they're struggling. That's a place that I should definitely go and support here soon. Elsewhere in the news, the City Council Transportation Committee voted to send a bill before the full council that would approve rentable scooters. Never-ending saga here in Seattle about when we're actually going to get those Lime and maybe Bird scooters. I feel like this is maybe the 2 years of arguing now about, are we going to get them, are we not going to get them? And I feel like last fall we were supposed to get them, and they bumped it to the spring, and then COVID-19 hit, and we've seen so many changes. I'm a big fan of the Uber and Lime bikes. I know I've talked a lot about that on my Instagram stories, and how I live in the city and they're just extremely accessible. We have all those bike lanes. They've been very helpful. And I love the scooters. I've ridden the scooters before in LA and they're so much fun and they're nice ways to get by. They do feel extremely dangerous though. They are something that I would highly recommend you have a helmet because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to fall. And it sounds like when it comes to the city council, that is the thing that they keep talking about and harping about is what's the danger level, which I'm sure could lead to lawsuits, especially with little things like curbs and sidewalks and tree roots blocking ways. It opens them up for liability, so I understand. But I did hear a rumor down in White Center, that there were rentable scooters available. So if you're over there in that West Seattle area, maybe go check it out and let me know if that's true or not. I have not seen them yet, but I think that's pretty cool. And more transportation, the better, in my opinion. So a very weird thing, not necessarily Seattle related. This is more Washington related. And the reason this got on my radar is I have a client that we create all this content related to trees and tree roots. And so what they have deemed the matriarch of the Northwest apple industry finally passed away. It was the apple tree was in Vancouver, Washington. It was 194 years old. And they were saying this was one of the first apple trees that were planted in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not sure necessarily if the tree seeds sprouted all of the apple tree, especially in like central eastern Washington. But that was a big headline this week, and I thought that was cool. And it was something I shared for another client. And I was like, hey, that's we're so known for our apples that that tree deserves some recognition. They actually held a Facebook Live funeral for the tree, which was just a nice thing to do in honor of nature and how nature has served us here in the state of Washington. I've got one more thing. A lot of people were talking. The USPS is a very trendy topic to talk about right now. And a bunch of mailboxes were removed and or locked up in Capitol Hill. And the USPS came out and said that that was specifically due to vandalism during the protests, which is a little skeptical given the current situation of USPS and what they're doing and seeing mailboxes in Oregon and other places also disappear. It seemed a little fishy to me. And then they come out and they're like, no, it's because of vandalism. I saw the pictures. They put big giant red locks on the mailbox on Broadway right at the post office. So I'm not sure about that. I've seen a lot of mailboxes. I've never heard of a mailbox getting a lock on it or taken away because there was graffiti or something else written on it. That sounds a little fishy to me. But that's it. I'm going to try to keep the news short this week, and there's some different things going on. But if you ever have got things that you want me to talk about, make sure to tweet or Instagram me and say, hey, I want to hear your opinion on the show about this news topic that happens every week. I try to keep it as mostly business focused as possible. And yeah, so there was one more news article that was very related to what we do here at Find Me in Seattle. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in what happened there. But the very popular Cafe Racer is officially shutting down, and maybe we could say even shutting down again. It served the not the International District, it served the University District or the Roosevelt neighborhood for 17 years, and they had a very tumultuous history. Back in 2012, for any of you who also lived here at the time, there was this very tragic moment, very scary moment if you lived in the city as well, but a gunman shot and killed 4 people in Cafe Racer, including shooting and injuring one of the chefs, and then he actually ran out and killed another woman to steal her car. It's an extremely tragic event, something that I hate to even bring up and remind you of. But that put a big hit on Cafe Racer in 2012. And at the time, the owner's name is, I believe it's Kurt Geisel, but I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Kurt. And he was really looking into closing because just bouncing back from a traumatic thing that happened in your business like that, I don't blame him at all. But there was a lot of public support, and it stayed open for the next couple of years. But finally, in 2017, there were a lot of financial issues with the business. And so Kurt finally sold the business, and he sold it to the new owner. His name was Jeff Ramsey. And what Jeff wanted to do is he wanted to make it a little bit more family friendly. What Cafe Racer was known before it was that Seattle music vibe, late night place, kind of a late night coffee shop, you could say. Always had music blaring in it. And he wanted to make it a lot more family friendly. He changed things around. He kind of made a game room. And they've been doing okay, but obviously, like everyone else we're talking about here in the show, the pandemic takes over, and that hits everyone extremely hard. And so, they have closed down Cafe Racer, unfortunately, and there was some light at the end of the tunnel. The current owner, Jeff Ramsey, did come out and say that he is in talks with another landlord in the vicinity. And they are hoping to bring back Cafe Racer at some point, but it's going to wait until the world kind of rights our ship and we figure out what's going on. And I can imagine why. I think that's a smart thing to do with all the ups and downs and the closings and dealing with flare-ups that we're going to have until there is a vaccine. I think it's just a smart decision. But if you want to support Cafe Racer still and you're just learning about some of these stories, you can check them out at Cafe Racer Radio. So they started a little streaming radio station, and it's all music from the Pacific Northwest, a lot of indie music, and they have a library of over 10,000 songs, and it's just a fun way to connect here with some of our Pacific Northwest roots and get interesting musical vibe of the city. CafeRacerRadio.com, and we can't wait to see you when you return, Cafe Racer. Wish you the best of luck. All right, this is where we transition the show and we start talking about some of the things that I personally did this week here at Find Me in Seattle. So, where to start? Let's start with my meal of the week. For the first time, I've been doing this eating thing at Find Me in Seattle Find Me in Seattle is only a couple years old, but going around and working with local businesses for 7 years now, or maybe 6 years. But I have never once felt really extreme effects of eating a meal the following day. And for the first time, I think I got a hangover from eating a food. And so I went to South Seattle, right? It's just east of Columbia City. It's kind of Columbia City, between Columbia City and Rainier. Let's call it Columbia City. Maybe they can help me out. But I went to Bent Burgers, and Bent Burgers is not the place that's getting a lot of Instagram coverage. It's not the sexy place, but they have a damn good burger. It is absolutely delicious. And after what I ate there, I really wish I should have just ordered another cheeseburger. So what I ordered was they're now going to make it famous, the Bent Burger. This is not no ordinary burger, you guys. What it was a cheeseburger, but instead of a bun, on both sides of the burger, they put a grilled cheese sandwich. So there were two grilled cheese sandwiches, squishing together the inside context of this burger. So obviously with a burger, we have a burger patty, but here's also what was in there. Along with the burger, there was a hot link, there was a fried egg, there was bacon, lettuce, tomato, and onions. So we have two grilled cheese, burger patty, hot link, bacon, fried egg, lettuce, tomato, onion, and it was giant. I held up the burger when it was wrapped in the foil, and we said it was as big as my face, but to scale it, it was pretty much like from my chin up to my eyebrows. It was a giant rectangle because it's made with grilled cheese, and immediately when we pulled it out of the bag, I got a little nervous because I was like, this is way too much food for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I opened it up, and it is just full of cheese, obviously, because there's cheese on the burger, there's multiple slices of cheese on the grilled cheese, and it was enormous. I couldn't fit my mouth around the whole thing. It was really actually a struggle to eat. And to give you some background, we went to Bent Burgers. Bent Burgers, when they are open and dine in, they kind of have this like comic book vibe. They've got masks of the Hulk and all the Avengers, and they've got all these comic book wallpaper all over. And it's a nice little burger spot. But obviously they're not open, they're only to go, and we wanted to go eat it at one of the parks there in South Seattle, but Lake Washington Boulevard is closed right now just for pedestrians to walk, so we actually didn't get out of the car, we just ate it in the car, and from a distance could look on to Lake Washington, and yeah, I just didn't feel very good eating this burger. It was so big. It was so messy, and it was too much for me. And I don't think I've ever said this with any place that I ate, but it was fun. It was very cool. But the kicker of this burger was it was only like $10.88, right? There are plenty of cheeseburgers around Seattle right now that go for more than $11. And that's just cheeseburger bun, lettuce, tomato, not hot link, fried egg, bacon, and 2 grilled cheese sandwiches around your burger. It was should I use the word? It was a doozy. I was getting the meat sweats. I was breathing really heavy. I was having to take breaks. It really pushed me to the limit. I'd love to see some of you that are really strong, heavy eaters who can really put down a big meal. I think the bent burger has potential to be like the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Like, who can eat this burger in 5 minutes? It's that much. It was very intense, and I loved it. It was super cool. But next time I go down to Bent Burgers, which I will be going back soon because I've been there a bunch of times and the burger is delicious, but the Bent Burger just put me over the edge. It was way too much. I'll be going back and I'll just be getting a normal cheeseburger, maybe a milkshake, and the fries. The fries were very underrated. They salted them just nicely. They were a good mix of crunchy and soft. Really, the highlight of the meal, because I felt so bad eating so much food at the Bent Burger. I walked away. I was like, yeah, these fries are really good too. And so that meal was to go. That's pretty much what all my meals have been since we got back from Thailand in the beginning of April. And that's what we're all doing, right? That's the same thing. But restaurants have started to open with limited capacity, right? A lot of them are 25 to 50% capacity. And we took the risk and we ate at a restaurant. And I'll put it up front, I don't think we're going to do that again for a while. Not because of what the restaurant did or did not do, but it just, given the circumstances of the world and everything you see and how we're consuming information, and everywhere you go, you see people with the mask, right? Coronavirus is right in our face all the time, as it should be. It's a very, very big deal. But when you go and you take off your mask and you look around and everyone's eating and they don't have masks on, you just think like, what's floating around in the air here? Is this actually a safe thing to do? And I'm really not too confident when you're dining inside that it is the safest thing to do. But if we're going to eat inside, we pretty much said to ourselves, like, what's the one place that we're going to take the risk to go eat inside? And I'm curious what that place would be for you. But for us, it was Din Tai Fung, our favorite dumpling place. I mean, almost everybody's favorite dumpling place. And so I had my dad, he was visiting, he wanted to go out and eat. And so we're like, all right, Din Tai Fung's the place. Not only do we know the food is so ridiculously good, also probably so much better than when you get it to go, but we knew that because of the scale of their business, that they're probably very likely to be taking the coronavirus precautions extremely seriously. They've got businesses all throughout Asia, Los Angeles, and here. So we figured that their standards of practice were going to be very high because they were very experienced with it, especially if they've got policy coming from Asia whatsoever. But I really don't know. Maybe they're not even operationally connected with what they do there. I don't know. But I did feel like they were the best place to take a risk. And so they had the situation definitely under control. They had all the correct markings about keeping your distance. The thing that everyone knows with Din Tai Fung is when you walk up to check in, they have that glass window with all of the workers making all the dumplings. And usually they're shoulder to shoulder. There's like 20 people in this little space. There are 4 people who are making dumplings there. So at least from that perspective, it was nice to see, all right, they're minimized. It's probably sad because a lot of people had jobs there, but that was something we were interested in walking up, was how many people were going to be in that window. And I thought people in that window were always wearing masks even before the pandemic. But so maybe that wouldn't have been anything new to see, but it was just nice to see, all right, they're limiting their capacity in that little space. And then Din Tai Fung in Bellevue has a lot of booths, so that's good. They've got that plexiglass walls to kind of extend the height of the booths, and then they've removed a lot of the center tables, and they kind of have the 2 back rooms as well, and they've gotten rid of half the tables, so you're kind of alternating this both between left and right and every other table to sit down. And so I felt safe. Server was wearing a mask. Been to other places where servers weren't wearing masks. So that was good to see. Obviously, the food is delicious. Din Tai Fung is just so unbelievably consistent with their food. It's very delicious. I loved it. It did feel nice to go back in. There's so much of my life that has revolved for years now about going to these places and sharing these experiences and having these moments and sharing that with other people in these restaurants. And now that we don't have it, it's just weird. And so, but going back and seeing how it's different and dining in the restaurant was probably more weird. And yeah, it's not something I'm going to keep doing. I'm enjoying making these new episodes about dining out and getting food to go and seeing how that's kind of changing our habits, right? Like getting alcohol to go, going and having more picnics, sitting outside. Obviously, we've got like 2 more months maybe that we can do that, but we can always dine in our car. What Amanda and I have done a few times also was trunk parties, right? So if we're going to meet up with a friend or two, they pull up their car in a parking lot and we kind of sit 10 plus feet away from each other, and we sit in the trunks and both parties eat their food and we have conversation. That's been fun. I know I got another one of those planned for this weekend, and that's how we socialize nowadays, right? We hang out with minimal amount of people from a distance, and if you can kind of do it from your car, I feel a lot safer doing that, and you still get the social experience. And yeah, that's fun. I'm going to make sure to be taking as many pictures as possible during these times, because I'm hoping that we think back on this in 10 years and it'll be a memory and be like, wow, I can't believe the world was like that. Let's be thankful for the small things, right? All the little small things that we're missing right now, garner a new appreciation for those moments and these experiences, and getting to spend time, getting to hug your friends or give high fives, all that stuff we all took for granted. I know I definitely took it for granted. So one day we will have that back. But I'm curious if you have dined out, and where is the one place that you would go and you would risk the coronavirus exposure because you got to dine in and have the food? Does that place even exist, or does it not exist? For me, it broke the camel's back with Din Tai Fung. We were willing to make the commitment there, but probably won't be doing it again. We'll be sticking to go. And then that bent burger. If you're looking for a food challenge and you're not looking to spend a crazy amount of money, go check out Bent Burgers in South Seattle. And I'm sure they could always use the help. And that burger is just absolutely insane with the 2 grilled cheese sandwich buns. It was intense. But next time I go back, I'm just getting a normal cheeseburger and fries and a milkshake. That's my recommendation. Thank you so much for joining the show again this week. I hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about Cafe Racer and some of the COVID relief funds that are going to help local businesses here around Seattle. And I guess hopefully we'll get some scooters soon. And yeah, Cafe Racer, Bent Burgers, Din Tai Fung, sitting in the restaurant. That's the end of the show. Thank you very much. Leave a review. Do all those things. Follow me. Do whatever you want. Thank you very much. Love you guys. See you next week.